Tonight, drummer, can you?
But I promise to work harder than what you ever found was good enough. I will remember this one. I'd say you're probably right. These demons haunting you will come to show their faces at night. An unequivocal thing, kinda like miles to the flames. Your world is burning and you cannot do a thing. It's time to breathe with this weight on my shoulders. There's something dragging me down in this life. To be specific, it's the way that we're going. No, it can't be right. Turning a new corner. Better believe that we are working towards a brighter sun. No more.
All right, that's enough of that. Let's make sure that I'm actually audible. Oh, good, I am. Yep, hello, everyone. It's nice to see you again. The camera's over here. The video's over here. So I'm not going to look at you. I'm going to look at this. And I have already skipped the copyrighted music that got one of the previous streams to get copyright claimed. So that was wonderful. This time, I'm going to try to be a little bit more fair, a little bit less caustic. Also, this video, there are a couple of things that are right, and there are a couple of things that aren't, but you'll see. I've sped it up a little bit. If it's a problem, I'm sure all the people in the chat, all 2 of them, will let me know. Yeah, okay, let's do this thing. We are going to talk about the alt-right playbook, The Card Says Moops. This is going to be interesting. I've actually wanted to do this one for a bit. The problem with it is that it's difficult for me to really talk about. You'll see. Let's get this show on the road, shall we?
Say, for the sake of argument, you're online blogging about a black journalist's commentary on marketing trends in video games, movies, and comic books. And you're saying how the vitriol in response to her fairly benign opinions reveals the deep-seated racism and misogyny in a number of fan communities.
Okay. It's important for you to understand that this is all hypothetical. But furthermore, there are already things being injected into the discussion that don't necessarily follow. For example, black journalist, why? So let's go back, how does the vitriol in response to her fairly
benign opinions
reveal the deep-seated racism, blah, 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 blah. So here's the question that you must ask. Do they have that vitriol for her opinions because she's black or because of her opinions? Is it directed at the person or is it directed at the opinions? That's the problem here. See, he doesn't really specify. The whole idea is that you, dear viewer, You are supposed to figure that out for yourself. Now, somebody who agrees with him is going to assume that it's because of her race, because that's what you're supposed to do with intersectionality. Not off on a great start there. That's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to always be looking for the racism, always finding everything that's racist, even when it's not there. But people who are not inherently race-seeking aren't going to do that. So let's keep going, and you'll see where this is going.
Reveals the deep-seated racism and misogyny in a number of fan communities, most especially those that lean right. When a right...
How does a fan community lean right? Let's see, who goes... When was that? When did that become a thing? Like, is there like some conservative I'm going to look it up. Is there some kind of conservative Star Wars fan community? Like, is that a thing now? No? Like, there's all these people who are trying to make it a thing. It's not. See, this is the fan community. Right-leaning fan community. That's weird. It's just like, if you like a media property, why does politics have to be a part of it? Why? Why does it have to be a part of it at all?
Leaning commenter pops in to say, or maybe they just actually disagree with her about marketing trends.
Now, here's the funny thing. Look over here. You see the little man. He's very angry, okay? He's got the scowl and the 4chan shirt. It's common in Innuendo Studios videos. This little man is very angry because you're supposed to think of these people as bad. They have to make angry faces so that they're bad. So what he's going to say actually makes sense. In fact, he doesn't disagree with me on that. You'll see about that.
For Christ's sake, there's no mystery here. People aren't speaking in coded language. They are telling you what they believe. She had a bad opinion. Why do you have to make it bigger than that? Why can't you ever take people at their word? You pause and ponder this for a moment.
What's wrong with that? No, really, what's wrong with that? It's true. It's just the simple truth. All right.
Ah, heck with it. You're in a discoursing mood. Let's do this. Mr. Conservative.
All right. This is where it gets weird. Okay? This part of the video, immediately, right here, this is weird, the way that he's done this. What he does is everything that you just saw is basically irrelevant. It doesn't have anything to do with this part. It just doesn't. It's bizarre. And this is one of the reasons that I held off for so long on watching this video, is that it's just too weird. Like, the first live stream I did where I talked about one of these videos, I spent 4 hours on it because I had to sit there and think about it. Because while it seems obvious to someone who doesn't actually think about it, who just accepts everything, both the spoken and unspoken context, if you actually look at it and you try to understand it and you look at it through a critical lens, yeah, it doesn't hold up very well. It's all over the place. So this guy here, actually it occurs to me, you can't see my cursor, can you? Or can you? No, yeah, you can. The little guy on the right is supposed to be him, in order for me to take you at your word. So he's going to try and draw all these parallels, these sort of disagreeing things. But it's really just blending a bunch of people into one. Here we go.
In order for me to take you at your word, your words would have to show some consistency. Let me just lightning round a few questions about the reactionary web's positions on marketing trends. Do you believe that having the option to romance same-sex characters in an RPG turns the game into queer propaganda? Or do you believe that killing strippers...
Go back. Queer propaganda. I've never really seen that. That seems like sort of a callback to 80s or 90s level right-wingers. the right wing of today is not the right wing of the 90s. The right wing of the 90s was absolute moralizing, policing scum. The right wing today is not that. The left wing today is moralizing, policing scum. But let's move on.
Romance same-sex characters in an RPG turns the game into queer propaganda? Or do you believe that killing strippers in an action game can't be sexist because no one's making you do it?
So these are supposed to be this is supposed to basically be like you're engaged in cognitive dissonance. But if we go back here, do you think that being able to be gay in an RPG turns the game into queer propaganda? That's point one. Or it can't be sexist. Killing strippers can't be sexist because no one's making you do it. These things are not opposed. And you'll find this to be a common problem. These things are not necessarily opposite one another. They're not, you can believe this stuff at the same time and it's not inconsistent.
Do you believe that the pervasiveness of sexualized young women in pop culture is just there because it sells and that's capitalism and we all need to deal with it? Or do you...
You know, it's funny. The left of the 90s, that was sort of the way things were.
You believe that a franchise has an obligation to cater to its core audience even if diversifying beyond that audience is more profitable?
Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Is it okay because... Do you believe that a franchise has an obligation diversifying... Okay. Here's the problem. It's not necessarily more profitable. In fact, there's not really a lot of proof either way that diversifying beyond that audience... See, what does that mean, diversifying beyond that audience? Scale it back and think about what that means. Does it mean that you target more people? Well, if you target everyone, then you're effectively targeting no one. You have a target audience. It is defined. Yes, you can go for things that attract more people that are outside of the core audience. You know, let's just take the stereotype white male gamers, right? Just as straight white male gamers, like young typically, under 40 at least. You know, like me, even though everyone thinks I'm middle-aged. Losers. Can't do math. So if you take the straight white male gamer stereotype, yes, women are the other half of the population. So if you make the games more appealing to women, you potentially drastically increase the amount of people that purchase your game, or that, you know, somehow you make money from the game. You get the idea. More people playing, more potential for revenue. This is correct. But that's not what people like him mean when they say diversifying beyond that audience. They mean catering to that audience to the exclusion of the core audience. For example, feminist frequencies work. I'm using air quotes, work. Feminist frequencies work in being a consultant to help video games not be sexist. Well, the problem is that the way that they did that, detrimental to the actual gameplay, detrimental to the core audience of the game, the people that are most likely to purchase the game and continue purchasing future installments of said game, and so on. You cannot make anything this, like, morally completely inoffensive thing and have it continue to be interesting. I mean, if you want every video game to be Teletubbies the game, okay, that's fine. I understand. You know, at the same time, I don't want to play that. I like my games to be a little cheeky, a little offensive. I like my games to be like, whoa, I didn't expect to see that in the game. But diversifying beyond that audience, what you really mean is making it less profitable by making it less offensive in ways that are detrimental. So let's be honest about this. Got a little itch on my poor skull. Look at all this beautiful hair, everyone. Look at how beautiful my hair is. Look. Some 12-year-old can talk about me. Come on. Some 12-year-old can talk about how old I am in the comments. Do it. I dare you. I don't really care. I don't really care what you think of me. I'm just here to make fun of this. I'm going to try to interject a little less because, believe it or not, all these dichotomies that he's trying to illustrate are irrelevant too.
Do you think words are inherently harmless and only oversensitive snowflakes would care about racialized language? Or do you think it's racist if someone...
I so want to say something about this. Words are inherently
harmless and only oversensitive snowflakes would care about racialized language? Or do you think it's racist if someone calls you mayonnaise boy?
And if you call me mayonnaise boy, I will laugh my ass off because that's funny. Who even says that other than him?
And as long as I've got your ear, are you the party that believes in the right...
Okay. Whoa. All right. Go back. Notice how he does this. This is the crap that he pulls. This is why I make these stupid videos. Look, and as long as I've got your ear, are you the party that believes? So we're no longer talking to this guy. We are roping a bunch of other people in and generating a stereotype and attacking this caricature of this guy and a bunch of other guys that this guy thinks all of them are like. This is the problem. This is why these videos are so stupid. Because you watch this and he'll go from what do you believe to your whole party, all these other people. It's like, dude, I don't speak for other people and they don't speak for me. And that's the bottom line. That's the way it is for most people. Most people are individuals with individual sets of complex opinions with a lot of factors playing into those opinions being formed. It's not as simple as, oh, your party, so we'll just let this play, okay? I'm going to try not to talk.
As long as I've got your ear, are you the party that believes in the right to keep and bear arms because you're distrustful of all authority and what if we need to overthrow the government someday? Or do you believe that cops are civil servants and we should trust their account of events whenever they shoot a black man for looking like he might have a gun?
See, that's not the same thing. Those two things aren't the same thing.
Does optional content reveal a game's ideology, or doesn't it?
Does optional content reveal a game's ideology, or doesn't it? Do games even have an ideology? Do they have to have an ideology? What if the people wanted to sprinkle in an assortment of things? And this need to assign some sort of unifying ideology to a video game is just a little perverse and strange, my dude.
Is capitalism a defense for decisions you don't agree with? Or isn't it? Is language harmful or not? Do you hate authority or love cops and the troops? Okay, but ease off. Add some nuance. Now, I know the right is not a monolith, and maybe these arguments are contradictory because they're coming from different people. We'll call them Engelbert and...
Oh, Christ. This is the part I just... Oh, God damn it. Okay. All right. This is the part where it starts to get stupid.
Charlemagne. Maybe Engelbert's the one who thinks any institution funded by tax money is socialist and therefore bad, and Charlemagne's the one who says we should dump even more tax money into the military and think...
You don't... The military isn't socialism. Christ.
Otherwise is un-American.
But what he's trying to do is say that there's two different sides to the same side. But, like, no shit. There's two different sides. People just, they aren't like these two boxes, dude. The problem is that you don't understand that people aren't just living in two boxes.
But here's the thing.
Let's get to
y'all have very fundamentally different beliefs, and you're so passionate about them that you're entering search terms into Twitter to find people you don't even follow and aggressively disagree with them. And yet you're always yelling at me and never yell.
This part always came off to me as him whining. Why are you both picking on me? Why don't you argue with each other instead? The problem is this. People like yourself do not actually want to have a discussion. You do not want to talk about anything. What you want to do is present what you view as the truth and have us, all of us that aren't on the far left side, accept your truth as our truth. Anything less and you're not happy. You don't want to have a discussion, so stop. Stop pretending like you do. This isn't about talking it out. Now, those two people over there that you're illustrating, those right-wingers with disagreements or whatever, they're not even necessarily right-wingers. They could be centrist. Like this, right here. This, taxation. Taxation is theft, right? Yeah, that's a fundamentally libertarian view, not right-wing. So the problem is this. These two people are probably disagreeing with each other, but not doing it in a hateful way, not doing it disrespectfully. Most importantly, though, because you can be a little disrespectful in argumentation and come out on the other end okay. Most importantly, what these two people are doing that you aren't doing is dealing with it. That the fact that there are differences, allowing that to exist. They can argue all day, but at the end of the day, they still respect one another for having engaged in the discussion. They might think that each other have stupid beliefs, but they don't think that each other are inherently stupid. This is the problem. You think people are inherently stupid if they don't believe what you believe. These guys don't. At the end of the day, they can still respect one another. But you don't respect them. You think that there's something wrong with them. You think they're evil. And in other videos, you've effectively said as much. The one with the onions or whatever. You think that they're evil for disagreeing with you. They don't think each other are evil for disagreeing with each other. So that's the big difference between these two guys. I'm just going to let this whole part play out because I'm tired of talking about it, but you'll see what I'm talking about.
At each other. What's that about? And I can't say how often it happens, but I know if I let Engelbert go on long enough, he sometimes makes a Charlemagne argument, and vice versa.
Dread the thought that people might agree on something.
And I see you getting ready to say the left does the same thing, but don't change the subject. That's an extremely false equivalence, but more importantly, it...
So you're saying the left doesn't have nuanced opinions?
Doesn't answer my question. What do you actually believe? And why?
Well, why does it have to fall into one of your stereotypes or one of the other stereotypes that you've made?
Why are you so capable of respecting disagreement between each other, yet so incapable of respecting me? Or, for that matter, a black woman?
You don't respect them. When you argue, either you're right or they're evil. And the black woman, her blackness has nothing to do with it. See, what you're trying to do is draw these false equivalences. Oh, strange.
See, I don't take you at your word because I cannot form a coherent worldview out of the things you say.
That's because you think all of these people are supposed to fall into this one stereotype, but amazingly, people are not boxes. There's not a dichotomy. People have diverse views. Oh God, diversity. Oh God, what a horrible thing that is to have diversity of thought.
So forgive me if when you tell me what you believe, I don't think you're being candid with me. It kinda seems like you're playing games, and I'm the opposing team, and anyone who's against me is your ally. And you're not really taking a position, but claiming to believe in whatever would need to be true in order to score points against me.
So now we've gotten to the point where he declares that you're just being dishonest. You don't really believe what you're saying. That's what he's saying. People who disagree with me don't really believe what they're saying. They're just trying to hurt me. I mean, if that's where you start the discussion, there is no discussion. Get out.
We're in that one episode of Seinfeld.
Who invaded Spain in the 8th century?
That's a joke. The Moors.
Oh, no. I'm so sorry, it's the Moops. The correct answer is the Moops.
That's not Moops, you jerk. It's Moors. It's a misprint.
I'm sorry, the card says Moops.
This is borrowed observation number 1, link in the down there part.
Link in the down there part. Let's see. David Roberts mentions, while explaining postmodern conservatism. I'm not going to a video. We're not going over these. See, here's the problem. This Let's see what that says it is. Yeah. This stuff, this is a tweet. Yeah. So that we've got opinion pieces. I'm just looking at the sources now. Yep. Yeah. So, some of his sources are tweets. One of them is Kurt Vonnegut, so that's probably not. Oh, that's just... Thanks, guys. That's not helpful at all. Okay, look at this. This is what he considers to be a source. I mean, that's really all you need to know. Let's just be honest.
Ooh, it feels good calling people hypocrites. Person says B when earlier they said A, and you point out the contradiction. You don't take a position on
The problem is it's not a contradiction.
A or B, and you still win. I see why Republicans like this so much. But that's the kind...
So they're just dishonest, right? So just, yeah. So you hate it when they point out your contradictions. Okay, cool.
Point scoring we're here to deconstruct. So, let's...
Point scoring. No one is trying to do the point scoring thing. You're wrong about things. That's it. Oh, look. Oh, God, I made a racist hand gesture. Even though divers do this to let them know that they're not dying. Oh, Christ, don't get me started on the okay thing.
Get analytical. There's a certain beat you at your own gaminess to the card says Moops maneuver. Safe spaces are bullshit.
See, the card says Moops maneuver. It's just like... That's like saying, oh, the word is wrong, therefore everything you said is wrong. It's like, no, you're astroturfing. You're making a straw man.
Shit. But if you get one, I get one too.
Boom! Now this is where things start getting interesting and accurate. Safe spaces are bullshit, but if you get one, I get one too. Well, yeah, see, what's going on there is someone saying, you're wrong, but if we were to apply your ideology, then your ideology is inverse to what you're actually claiming. Those things are not inconsistent.
There's no such thing as systemic oppression, but if there were, I'd be oppressed.
Both of those things are also correct. Notice, he even says, but if there were, I'd be oppressed. If anything, XYZ person is oppressed. Oh, yeah. It's not
dismissing
difficult to
the rhetoric of
understand
social...
this. Dismissing the rhetoric of social justice, yes, because it's wrong.
Justice, while also trying to use it against you.
Trying to use it against you. Now, notice, it's theoretical. But there's no such thing. But if. See, he's pretending like these hypotheticals are serious. They're not. They're not saying there is systemic oppression. They're saying if your lie was true, then you'd still be wrong. You're so wrong that you're doubly wrong. It's like an onion. You peel back the layers and there's just more wrong. Whew.
Claiming the card says Moops does not so much mean I believe the people.
No one claims the card says Moops. They're saying you're wrong, and they're saying that even if you were right, you'd still be wrong.
People who invaded Spain in the 8th century were literally called the Moops. But rather, you can't prove I don't believe it. Not a statement of sincere belief, simply moving a piece.
No one says, if you can't prove I don't believe it. They're saying that this guy doesn't understand. No, he does understand. He's being willfully obtuse about it.
Piece across the board. All in the game, yo. If they could be so nakedly honest with you and themselves to answer, what do you actually believe, truthfully, one suspects the answer would be, what difference does it make? We're right either.
Do you understand what is going on right here? Man, this is giving me indigestion, I'm telling you. What difference does it make? We're right either way. This is not a real person. These are not real people. These two dudes, they're not real. This is not a thing that would happen. These are people that he made up, saying things he made up. This does not show you that the people who disagree with the far left are some kind of inconsistent, incoherent, we're always right no matter what we believe type of people. This shows you what he thinks those people are like. When it is said that the left doesn't understand the right, but the right understands the left, this right here is a prime example of what is being talked about. This is a fundamental misunderstanding of what people that aren't left-wing think, do. That this is not the way that they are. They're diverse people with diverse opinions, diverse thoughts. But this guy just thinks that, we're just like, it doesn't matter what it is. We're always right.
Way. This has come to be known as postmodern conservatism, a fact I find...
Who says that? Some leftist academic? I bet. Because I've never heard of this. See, this is another thing that they do. They coin terminology. They build false intellectual frameworks that they can then use to say, oh, look, we have all these magic answers that we've come up with, this convoluted thing that we've come up with, all these special terms that are specifically designed to say, if you disagree with me, you're wrong, you're bad, you're evil. Get the idea.
Hilarious, because in the discourse, postmodernism is a dog whistle for everything the right hates about the left. It also means Jews. Postmodern conservatism is the thinking that, at least for the purpose of argument, the truth of who invaded Spain is immaterial. You have your facts, I have alternative facts. What is true?
That's not a thing. This is not a thing. This is not the way people are. Dude, do you go outside less than I do?
Who's to say? Regardless of what you actually believe, what you believe serving no rhetorical purpose, you are at least arguing from the position that material truth does not exist. Truth is a democracy.
Projection. This is a thing that leftists do. Far leftists love to argue that truth is relative. In fact, the whole postmodernism thing, that's the fundamental tenet of it. That truth does not exist. There is no such thing as absolute truth. Truth is relative. Relative to you and your experience and your thoughts. Truth cannot be absolute. Truth is what I decide it to be. That's postmodernism. That's the modern left. Now, when he says that that's the right, that's freaking hilarious, because that's not a thing.
Whoever wins the argument decides who invaded Spain. It would be reductive to blame this pattern of thought on the internet, but its recent proliferation isn't really extricable from the rise of Chan culture. This is borrowed observation number 2, link in the down there part. 4chan didn't cause this way of thinking.
I just want to point out before we get into the 4chan part of this video, I am, I can't pull up the graphic. YouTube would probably delete my video. But I am from roughly the mid-2000s, 2006, 2007-ish, probably 2006, on 4chan. Not one of the original people, but yeah, I found it a long time ago. I stopped going there a long time ago too, but I spent quite a few years just sort of peeking in on B. I understand 4chan better than this guy does. So this is where things get fun for me.
But sites like 4chan reveal it in its most concentrated form. The two most common properties of a Chan board will be anonymity and lack of moderation, which means, among other things, that you can say whatever you want with no systemic or social repercussions.
Yes, he is absolutely correct. This is one of those shining moments where Ian Danskin, Innuendo Studios, and Jody Bruchon, fat, bald, middle-aged loser, agree. It's cool, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. So, 4chan is anonymous. When you post there, at least in some of the boards, you have no ability to put a name to it. Although, it's not entirely true that it has to be anonymous all the time. There are some boards with what they call trip codes, where you can have a pseudonym that's randomly generated. There are IDs, which let you know when a response is linked to someone else. For example, the FBI has been caught several times trying to astroturf their own stuff on 4chan because there'd be like posts in a row with the same ID. Zoe Quinn of Gamergate fame tried to astroturf her own harassment on 4chan, but all 4 posts of hers were in a row with no other posts between them, and they all had the same poster ID. And then the next post was like, not falling for it, Zoe. So yeah, it's a little different than it used to be, but back in 2006, it was truly anonymous. They didn't have IDs. They did have trip codes, but not on B, and they didn't have IDs at all. So for the most part, yes, you can say whatever you want on a Chan board with no systemic or social repercussions, because you don't have an identity on a Chan board. Anonymity is a lack of identity, which means the ideas must stand on their own. The ideas must stand on their own, and if you post something that is false, it has to be evaluated in the same identity context as something which is true. That is, no identity. So the ideas must be evaluated on their own merits. Keep that in mind moving forward because it's important.
People may disagree with you, but it carries no weight.
Yeah, that's pretty much 4chan right there. Actually, kill yourself 3 times. Yeah, except, yeah, like I said, some of the stuff that I've got saved in the image archive, I can't put up here to show you.
You won't be banned, you won't have your comments deleted, and because there's no way to know whether...
You can get banned from 4chan. You can have your comments deleted. That is not entirely true. He is exclusively talking about the random board called B. That's it. He's not talking about any of the others.
Or any 2 posts are made by the same person, you won't even get a reputation as the person with the bad opinion. The effect this has on the community is that there is no expectation in any given moment that the person on the other end of a conversation isn't messing with you.
Absolutely, and that's part of what makes it so fun. Also, it teaches you to evaluate anything presented in a very critical manner and in a robust manner. You check things thoroughly before you believe them.
You can't know whether they mean what they say or are only arguing
them
as though they mean what they say.
Now, I want to point out, arguing as though they mean what they say is a perfectly legitimate thing to do. The other term for that is called playing the devil's advocate. When you take on a position you don't agree with, just to argue it to make sure that your position is in fact right. And this is actually a fundamental part of scientific rigor. You have to evaluate all possible counterclaims to make sure that what you're finding is right and that you haven't made some kind of a mistake. You haven't considered something. Now, what a lot of, especially these social science, social justice, feminist journal garbage research study things do is they'll do the science, but they leave that out. They do not question their own claims. They will come to a conclusion. They'll just build this study to come to that conclusion and reinforce that conclusion. But it's not robust. It's not been evaluated just for the most fundamental problems. And that's why a lot of these social science studies that you see, that's why a lot of studies in general that you see just have a tendency to not work. They're wrong because they haven't thought of the most simple thing that could prove them wrong. I can't tell you how many scientific studies, forget the social science ones, just simple scientific studies, I've been able to just hand wave dismiss right off because basic methodological errors, the conclusion does not follow, and so on. I can come up with a 3-word response to some of these huge studies out there that people pimp as some sort of big magic revelation that just destroys them. The conclusions don't follow from the evidence. The sample size is 5 people. You get the idea.
And entire debates may just be a single person stirring the pot. Such a community will naturally attract people who enjoy argument for its own sake and will naturally trend towards the most extreme version of any opinion. In short,
Absolutely.
this
Everything
is
gets
the free
explored.
marketplace of ideas. No
See,
code of
now,
ethics,
this is funny.
no social mores,
He's right.
no accountability. A Darwinist
He's right.
petri dish where ideas roam free
Yeah, pretty
and
much.
only the strong ones survive. If the community agrees Bebop is better than Ava, well then I guess Bebop is better than Ava.
That is not true. Now, this is where things get crappy. See, he was right up until that point. But now he's saying if the community agrees, then it must be so. That is not true. If the this, first of all, this is an opinion. End of story. This is an opinion. No one's right or wrong when it comes to opinion. But as far as like facts, it doesn't matter who agrees or disagrees. Facts are facts. And opinions are subjective. So there is no better than, worse than, like, that's entirely subjective.
Because there wasn't any outside influence polluting the discourse.
Oh, no. 4chan is all about polluting the discourse. The beauty of it is you can figure things out better because you can tell who's polluting better once you've been exposed to enough of the pollution.
Granted, it could just be a lot of people thought it was funny to shit on Ava, but it's what the community has decided, so it will at least be treated as truth. This
The ending sucked so bad they had to redo it. I don't want to talk about it.
demands that one be both highly opinionated and to assume opinions are bullshit. To place a high
No. Whoa. Go back to that.
This demands that one be both highly opinionated and to assume...
Okay, the highly opinionated, that's basically saying strong opinions, to have strong opinions, or to express opinions strongly. Assume opinions are bullshit. Where are you getting that, dude? No, they're opinions. Like, no, who is assuming opinions are bullshit? No, people might assume that one person's opinion is bullshit. They might assume that the poster's opinion is bullshit, but to assume opinions, all opinions or opinions as a group are bullshit. Well, first of all, they're opinions. Like, dude, do you even know how opinions work? They're not facts. Jesus Christ.
Opinions are bullshit. To place a high premium on consensus and be intensely
Nah. So this is what happens when you think of the world in dichotomies, black and white. High premium on consensus and intensely distrustful of groupthink at the same time. No, high premium on consensus, you know what? 100 people can decide that the show I like is shit. But guess what? I'm still going to like it. Doesn't matter. Intensely distrustful of groupthink? Oh yeah, you better believe it. Because guess what? People are individuals. You don't think for me. The hive mind doesn't think for me. If 100 doctors say that something is X or Y, that doesn't make them right. That just makes a heuristic for me to just go, oh, okay, well, I don't have time to actually figure it out on my own, and a large group of people that are credentialed, that are experts in the field say so. So since I don't have the time to figure it out for myself, I have to assume that they are likely to be correct. See, that's a heuristic. That's the difference between opinion and fact. You are taking opinion and fact stuff and mushing them together. That's not how this stuff works. This is not how the real world works.
Trustful of groupthink. A common means of straddling these lines is what I call the Stanislavski opinion. The opinion you entertain so completely that you functionally believe it while you express it, no matter the possibility that you will express, and to an extent believe, an opposite opinion.
This is called playing the devil's advocate. Again, this is important to do. If you have an opinion about something, think about the other side of that opinion. Think about disagreement with that opinion. If you can look at the disagreement with your opinion on something and still retain your opinion, even though you've honestly considered the disagreement, the other opinions counter to yours, then you can only feel better in your opinion. Now keep in mind though, he's saying opinion. Opinion is personal, subjective. An opinion is not a fact. The problem here is he's using the word opinion, but he's talking about facts. You'll see. You'll see.
Later. Most of us go through a phase in our youths where we're online and like the idea of believing in something, but don't know what to believe just yet. So we pick a position and find out if we believe it by defending it. We try on ideologies like sunglasses off a rack. Now, most of us will eventually settle on a belief system, and this will usually involve some apologies and some comments we wish we could scrub from the internet, but it's an important stage of growing up. But some percentage of people will seek out a space where there is no embarrassment, the comments scrub themselves, and never growing out of the Stanislavski opinion is actively rewarded. There, figuring out what you believe would make your ability to argue less flexible. And
one of the greatest things that I like about the way I argue with people online is I don't take a position so much as argue against their position. Now, 99% of the time, what those people will do is make the assumption that I hold the opposite position. I don't necessarily hold the opposite position. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. But they will automatically argue as if I hold the opposite position. So what I'll do is, in a comment thread, if someone's making a stupid argument that tends to be left-wing, I might make a counter-argument, and I'll be very careful not to actually state my personal opinion so much as refute their argument, and I'll stick to refuting their argument. At some point, I'll be labeled something stupid, like a Trump-tard. That's just the way that it goes. And when I reply that I didn't vote for Trump or Hillary or whatever, they get confused and fall apart. Don't know what to say after that because, oh, crud, he didn't fall into one of the two boxes. He's not my opinion. He's not the opposite opinion. I don't know what to do. Does not compute. NPC blue screen. Oh God. NPC blue screen. It crashed. You get the idea.
Besides, if you believed anything unironically, much of the community would still assume you're trolling. Where no
That's the benefit of anonymity.
one is bound by their word, what really is the difference between appearing to have an opinion and having one?
That's the beauty of it. You can play with having a different opinion. You can play with opposite opinions. Think about them. See other people think about them, who may or may not be honest in their own evaluations. And at the end, after all of this shaking and filtering, you come out with a purer product.
Sincerity is unprovable and open to interpretation. Decide someone is sincere if you want to make fun of them. Decide they're trolling if you want to make fun of someone else.
It
What is
doesn't
true?
matter.
What do you want to be true?
It's 4chan.
It's easy enough to start thinking of one's own opinions the same way.
Doesn't
What
matter.
do I believe? What is advantageous to believe? Your answer isn't binding. You'll change it later.
Now, this is where did you see the subtle dishonesty creep in?
Start thinking of one's own opinions the same way. What do I believe? What is advantageous to believe?
What is advantageous to believe? So, again, what we've done is, circled back to the person doesn't actually believe what they're saying. They're just taking that position to disagree with me. They're just taking that position because they want to argue against me, because they don't like me. Yeah.
Your answer isn't binding. You'll change it later if you need to.
That's not real.
The person I'm describing?
Yeah, you can change your mind. Holy God, you can change your mind. Oh, that's terrible, isn't it? That people could change their mind. They could formulate new opinions. Whew. And you know what? Sometimes people who are a little bit different do have opinions that are not the same as yours, but they're not completely in disagreement and still are better than the one that the other guy has.
You spend time online, you'll meet him a lot. His name is Schrodinger's douchebag. Borrowed observation number 3, link in the down there part.
Here comes the bullshit.
A guy who says offensive things and decides whether he was joking based on the reaction of people around him. Any website that lacks effective moderation and allows some level of anonymity will, to varying degrees, approximate 4chan and be overrun with Schrodinger's douchebag. Now, when this type of person defends, for instance, rape jokes by saying all humor is inherently punching down because there must be a butt to every joke, he hasn't thought about
Defends rape. That's not... People don't do this. Like, all humor is inherently punching down. If you analyze humor like this, you don't have a sense of humor. So the whole point... humor is not about punching down or up. Humor is just about taking real-life stuff and coping with it. And sometimes that does punch down or punch up. It doesn't matter. But this guy doesn't have a sense of humor. Clearly.
He assumes it's true because he figures he's a smart guy and whatever he assumes is probably right. But he's unfazed
Anything you think is right.
if you prove otherwise. There's no shortage of dodgy reasons he might be right and you wrong. He'll just pick another one. What matters is the game continues. The thing is, Bob, it's not that they're lying, it's that they just don't care. I'll say that again for the cheap seats. When they make these kinds of arguments, they legitimately do not care whether the words coming out of their mouths are true. If they cared, before they said something is true, they would look it up. So it's kind of funny, right? How many of these folks self-identify as rationalists? I mean, typical rational thinking would say, if I am presented with the truth, I will believe it. And once I believe it, I will defend it in argument. This is not that. This is a different idea of rationality that views it not as a practice, but as an innate quality one either possesses or lacks, like being
this is where
blonde
it
or
gets
left-handed.
weird, dude.
If I'm a different idea of rationality that
back.
views typical rational thinking would say, if I am presented with the truth, I will believe it. And one arguments with liberals. And like Newtonian physics,
Go back.
and if I believe it, because I'm a rational person, it must be true.
So, yet again, this is projection. What he's saying is that you take the evidence. Normally what you do is you take evidence and you produce conclusions based on the evidence. What he's saying is that people who disagree with him take the conclusions they want and find a way back to evidence that supports it. Now, to a large extent, most people do this. But it's kind of sketchy that that's what he assumes everybody who disagrees with him has done.
You speak assuming you're right, and should you take a new position, this telescopes out into a whole new set of beliefs with barely a thought. Stay focused on the argument.
You can change your mind. You can be wrong and change your mind to be right. This is actually allowed, believe it or not. I know, who'd have thought?
You won't even notice it's happening. You might now conclude that the internet reactionary believes in nothing except winning arguments with liberals. And like Newtonian physics, if you assume this framing, you will get highly useful results. If you enter
Useful
conversation
to
with
who?
Engelbert and Charlemagne believing they do not mean what they say, they are only entertaining notions, and on a long enough timeline they will eventually defend a position fundamentally incompatible with the one they defended earlier in the same argument, you will navigate that conversation much more effectively.
So assume that people who disagree with you do so in bad faith. That's what he's saying. Anybody who's not a leftist, bad faith.
But, like Newtonian physics, this framing is lowercase a accurate, without being capital T true. In reality, nihilism isn't that popular. People will tell you, I don't care about anything, I just like triggering the libs. But
sometimes that actually is what they're doing. Sometimes it really is just about illustrating how stupid you are by throwing something out there that you'll have an absolute fit over, and you doing it. See the okay hand sign. This is about triggering the libs. This was about triggering the libs. This is not a racist symbol. This is how divers let each other know that they're not dead. Because you can't talk underwater, so you have to do something like this. Oh my God. But 4chan decided to say that this was racist, and these fools believed it. It's not just about triggering the libs in and of itself. It's about triggering the libs so everyone can see how ridiculous the libs are. Where the libs in these cases usually really just means people who don't actually examine anything. They don't do any real research. They don't look into anything on the most fundamental level before they just go repeating what they heard. The okay thing proved the dishonesty of the media. That's it. So yeah, I don't care about anything. I just like triggering the libs. Well, sometimes that's the only way that you can show other people that those people are wrong. Because when you have something like this that is so insanely stupid and people believe it and they fall for it, yeah.
why is it always libs? It is piss easy and also hilarious to
Now, to be fair, there are a lot of people on the right that are stupid too. Why is there a shaver in the toilet?
upset conservatives. Why only go after the SJWs?
Probably because the difference between an SJW or a leftist or whatever and a conservative is, generally speaking, the conservatives don't want to mess with my life. They want to mess with their own. But The social justice warriors, they do want to mess with my life. One of them is about controlling others. One of them is not. We go after the SJWs because they want to control others. Social justice warriors are a threat to freedom, a threat to free speech, to democracy, you name it, they are a threat. A bunch of conservatives, even if they're stupid, even if they're those morons that really legitimately think that net neutrality somehow is the government regulating away things that it shouldn't regulate, yeah, even those guys, they ultimately are not trying to do something to directly infringe on my rights, on my freedoms. They're not trying to get me fired from my job. They hold stupid opinions, but they don't then go out and try to find out who I work for and ruin my reputation and destroy me publicly just because I don't agree with them. That's why. That's why the social justice warriors get mocked and the conservative morons don't. Because one set of fools is threatening to a lot of people. One set of fools is like locusts and destroys everything they touch, while the other set of fools is more like clowns. A bunch of random clowns in the middle of the street acting a fool. Yeah, it might be inconvenient, it might be ridiculous. At the end of the day, they're not actually hurting anyone.
The simple answer is, well, if you upset a feminist, you might make her cry. If you upset a Nazi, he might stab you. And that has a...
That's not true. If you upset a feminist, you'll mobilize the feminist army on the internet to get you fired from your job, evicted from your property, wherever you live, to make sure that you can never have a career again. Whereas,
if
what
you
did he
upset
say?
a feminist, you might make her cry. If you upset a Nazi...
If you upset a Nazi, he might stab you. Well, the Nazis died 80 years ago-ish. Nazis were a political party in Germany. They haven't existed in longer than I've been alive. So you can shove the Nazi thing right up your backside. If you upset a Nazi, he might stab you. Nah, if you upset a psycho, they might stab you.
He might stab you. And that has a...
Notice how we're already casting the other side as Nazi.
cooling effect. But the more obvious answer is that they actually agree with the racist MRA and TERF talking point.
Whoop!
But the more obvious answer is that they actually...
Racist MRA. MRA is men's rights advocate. These are people that are talking about issues like circumcision of male babies, unfair treatment in family court. How is that racist? To put MRA in there indicates that this man has not the slightest clue what men's rights advocates actually believe. Not even the slightest. Racist. None of them care. None of them care about race. It doesn't make any sense. Now, TERF, that's not a racist thing either. Granted, trans-exclusionary radical feminist, you still got some problems there, but it has nothing to do with race. Is everything racist to you? Oh, yes. Yes, it is.
We agree with the racist MRA and TERF talking points they repeat, but would rather not think about it. So much of conservative rhetoric is about maintaining ignorance of one's own beliefs, to uphold the institution of imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy while thinking you are none of the...
Imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist, patriarchy. The imperialism thing, at least in the United States, not really a thing. Hasn't been a thing for a long time. And we're going to ignore that because it's bullshit. White supremacist. Yeah, that also hasn't been a thing for a long time. Now, granted, there'll be individuals that are white supremacists, but that hasn't been a thing in America for decades. Longer than I've been alive. Capitalist. There's nothing wrong with that. Capitalism is way better than whatever breadline crap you've got. Patriarchy. Yeah, all those men that voted for women to get their voting rights and voted for women to get equal everything. Yeah, what a patriarchy. When the patriarchy takes actions that benefit women directly, it's not a patriarchy anymore. Just being run by a big group of people that have penises, that doesn't make a patriarchy. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Those things. Well, okay, knowing you're a capitalist, but thinking it's a good thing. Most people have a baseline...
Oh, it is a good thing. It is a good thing, trust me. You wouldn't be making these videos if it wasn't, because you wouldn't be getting paid to do it.
Line of fairly conventional kindergarten morality, and conservatism often clashes with it. You can rationalize these contradictions. I'm not a bigot, I just believe in states' rights.
How is believing in states' rights bigoted?
But as American conservatism gets more radical, it gets harder to square.
I love this. Rope tree journalism assembly required. Like, it's not actually literally saying kill the journalists. It's saying that they're trash and they need to go. But leave it to this guy to interpret something very literally that very obviously is meant to be a joke.
One's politics.
And no, I don't mean a joke like, oh, I really believe what this shirt says, but I'm going to say it's a joke so I don't get in trouble. It is clearly meant to be a humorous expression of journalists deserve this.
With what one assumes to be one's beliefs. So you learn when someone challenges you to cycle through beliefs until something sticks. Just play your hand and trust that you're right. Or,
this isn't actually a thing.
in extreme cases, insist.
This is a thing that the left does, though. They will actually cycle through beliefs until they find something that sticks. They'll pull, basically, they'll change the subject. They'll shift the argument to a different subject until they can find one that makes you look bad. That's it. Never mind the fact that, they diverted from the original argument entirely.
You have no beliefs at all.
Go back.
Play your hand and trust that you're right. Or, in extreme cases, insist you have no beliefs at all. You're just here to watch the world burn. But they're
You can be here to watch the world burn and have beliefs, or not.
Not. They are willing participants in the burning of only certain parts. They don't care what they believe.
They're bad people. The people who disagree with Ian are bad people.
But they know what they hate, and they don't want to think about
hate. So we've already gone on to assigning the people who disagree with me are hateful.
Why they hate it. On paper, they believe in freedom of religion and freedom of expression, but they also hang out in communities where Muslims and trans women are punching bags.
Okay.
Religion and freedom of expression.
Freedom of religion and expression.
They also hang out in communities where Muslims and trans women.
You're free to be a Muslim. You're not free to be a Muslim that throws acid on people. And trans women, okay, are biological males. This is not an opinion. This is a factual statement. Trans women are biological men. They express as women, and indeed, a lot of conservatives actually don't really care. Most people don't care what you express yourself as. You do you. As long as you're not screwing with me, you do you. Most people don't have a problem with this, including conservatives. So making that kind of generalization is ridiculous.
Men are punching bags. And like a 6th grader who believes one thing in Sunday school and another thing in biology class.
That's not a 6th grader thing. That's a religion thing. These are very different things.
They believe different things at different times. This flexibility of belief is fertile ground for far-right recruitment. I'd say the jury is out on whether Chan boards attract far-right extremists or are built to attract far-right extremists, but they're where extremists congregate and
that's neither.
Organize because they're where extremists are tolerated.
Everyone is tolerated. If you don't like it, take your brand of extremism there. Take your brand of extremism there. Because guess what? You have no power, but neither does anyone else. The ideas are independent of the people. So go to the Chan board. Go ahead. Go to the Chan board. Express your extreme far-left views. That's all you have to do. Argue with them. Go ahead. Yeah, they might call you names, but if you ignore the name calling and argue the points, and your points are better, you will win. You won't win with them. They're idiots. But you will win for the readers, the people who see it and consider both sides. You being there adds that balance, and they can decide for themselves. Because the truth is that winning the argument is not about convincing the other person so much as the people that are watching. At least that's the way it is today on the internet.
And where they blend in with the locals. They learn the lingua franca of performative irony. Say what you mean in such a way that people who disagree think you're kidding, and people who agree think you're serious.
they're assigning this to the person making the statement, but what's really going on here is it's the people who are listening choosing to interpret it differently.
Yes. People who don't know what they believe, but clearly have some fascist leanings, don't need to be convinced of Nazi rhetoric. They just need to be submerged in it and encouraged to hate liberals. They'll make their way right on their own. Folks start using extremist rhetoric because it wins arguments with SJWs, usually because that's the moment the SJW decides it's not fruitful and possibly unsafe talking to you. And
No, usually what happens is social justice warriors will continue to argue until you stop.
this creates the appearance that if it keeps winning arguments, there must be something to it. The far right literally has
All of this assumes that you have no free will, that you just sort of blindly follow whatever seems to work and that's it.
books on how to do this. Those who don't consciously embrace the idea, something to
back.
it. The far
What did
right
that say? Let's read this. Because he didn't read this. Lulls. The tone of the site should be light. Most people are not comfortable with material that comes in the under. He wrote this. Yeah, he wrote this.
literally has handbooks on how to do this. Those who don't consciously embrace the ideology, who don't transition
that
from
up.
participating to getting
That's not a real
recruited,
thing.
those who don't consciously embrace the ideology, who don't transition from participating to getting recruited, are still useful. They spread the rhetoric, they pad the numbers, and often participate in harassment.
This is not a thing that exists. It's like people going around talking about glasses of juice, glass of juice. You can think about what that actually means. Those people, whether they're serious or not, most people don't take them seriously or assume that if they are actually saying that for real, that they're bad people. What happens is people say this crazy shit on chan boards, and the whole point is shit posting. The whole point of 4chan is to just make one giant shit post and goof off and say the most extreme crap you can think of. But at the end of the day, no one really believes this stuff. Or if they do, that's a problem with them. There's something wrong with those people. They have not been taught to think about anything critically. One could argue that if the stuff that's posted to 4chan actually causes people to become racist, hateful, angry people that want all the Jews to die, that those people were not brought up correctly, that there's something seriously wrong with them, that they don't understand what they're getting into. Like, this is not what chan boards do. You choose how to interpret these things. The whole point of the chan boards being to just dump a bunch of stupid stuff out there and play with things that you're not allowed to, that are taboo, that you can't say. Oh, you can't say that scandalous thing on television or out in society or on Facebook because it's against terms of service, but you can say it on 4chan. So 4chan and Encyclopedia Dramatic and all that, people dump all this extreme stuff out there. But it's so obviously over the top and hyperbolic crazy that anybody who takes it seriously is a fool. And in fact, I don't know if this is going to do what I think it's going to do. No, I guess they don't have it there. Rules? No, I'm not going to try to pull it up. That's probably not the best idea. But I can't go to B on YouTube live. I just can't do that. But anyway,
And
let's
sometimes
just move
even
on.
violence.
What I was going to say is on B, they had a thing for a very long time at the top. I don't know if they still have it, that says that everything here is a work of fiction. Only a fool would treat anything presented here as fact. And that's the bottom line. People need to be robust and independent on their own. It is not the fault of 4chan or the people posting there if someone shows up that can't handle it, despite all the warnings that exist on the site telling you, hey, this place is largely unfiltered, it's a mess, people lie, you're an idiot if you think any of this is real.
There's a twisted elegance to all this. Think about it. If you operate as though there is no truth, just competing opinions, and as though opinions aren't sincere, just
Truth and opinions are very different things.
tools to be picked up and dropped depending on their utility, then what are you operating under? Self-interest.
Oh, look, it's leftist projection at its finest. We don't need truth. We don't need opinions. What we say are facts. Opinions as facts, but still facts. Why? Because it does what we want. It lets us make other people join the fold. It's in our self-interest.
The desire to win. You'll defend the Holocaust just to feel smarter than someone.
No one does this.
Superior. Think how beautifully that maps onto the in-group, out-group mentality of dominance and bigotry.
Oh, you mean the thing that you guys are pushing?
And think how incompatible it is with liberal ideas of tolerance.
The vast majority of people out there that quote Martin Luther King Jr. are right-wingers. Think about that for a minute.
I think this is why we don't see a lot of these "I'm just here to fuck shit up" types on the left. Don't get me wrong, the left has gotten on some bullshit, but accepting politicians whom you should never assume mean anything they say, it's sincerely believed bullshit. We don't build identities around saying things just to piss people off.
It's not as simple as saying things just to piss people off. If I say something that I know is going to agitate you, I'm not necessarily just doing that because I want to agitate you. I'm doing it because I know that you don't think about what's put in front of you. And you're just going to react a certain way. Thus, the people who are watching me and you can see how we interact. And they can see that when I said thing, it made you go bonkers. And that you're nuts and that I'm not. Yeah, you got pissed off about something that is not rational to get pissed off about, that you shouldn't get pissed off about. You thought this was racist because you're stupid. You fell for this, and people can see that the OK hand sign is not racist. They know it's not racist, but then you go, oh, it's a white supremacist thing that white supremacists do, supremacist. They can see that what you're saying is stupid. So it illustrates for the other people watching that your way of doing things, your thoughts, that your overall view of the world is stupid and dumb and non-functional and ignorant. Because if you think this is racist, then you're a fool. It's an easy thing for people to see that you're an idiot.
The takeaway from all this is not only that you can't tell the difference between a bigot who doesn't know they're a bigot and a bigot who knows but won't tell you, but that there is no line dividing the two. When some guy in the middle of a harassment campaign says the victims should be nicer to their harassers because that will mend the rift, I don't know if he believes it. But in that moment,
a victim should be nicer to the harassers because it will mend the rift. What is he referencing? There has to be a real thing that's talking about.
he believes it. And that scares the shit out of me.
What is he talking about?
But if you're asking how many layers of irony he's on as compared with the actual harassers, 9 times out of 10, it doesn't matter. Borrowed observation number 4 is we are what we pretend to be.
That's that thing from Kurt Vonnegut. Oh, crud. Wait, we're at the end of the video? Oh, crud. Oh, okay. We're at the end of the video already. Amazing. So he didn't really say anything of value again. Didn't say anything that mattered. I'm going to give it a dislike because I can and I don't care. But no, this was useless. Like, all that this is basically trying to say 4chan bad. People who disagree with me bad. People who troll to get a reaction out of you that illustrates how stupid you are, oh, they're bad because that's not nice and that makes me look bad. So it basically is the mentality of an angry 6-year-old, except hiding behind what appears to be an intellectual framework. So that's it. That's actually a pretty good summary of a lot of these videos. So it's basically taking the nuh-uh or you're a duty head, or why you gotta be such a dick, and turning it into a 20-minute long video. It's stupid. It's so stupid. Oh, well, anyway. I wonder if there are any good comments. Let's go see. I didn't leave any comments. This is actually true. Any community that gets its laugh by pretending to be idiots will be flooded by actually idiots who mistakenly believe they're in your company. I read that so badly. I don't even know what time it is. Oh, it's getting pretty late. That's why. Blah, blah, blah. So, as is often the case with these videos, you'll find that the highest rated comments tend to be circle jerks. And if you switch to newest first, maybe zoom in a little bit to get them a little bigger. Yeah, here you go. Hey man, leave MRAs out of this. I just want to end the draft and get access to abuse shelters and end male genital mutilation. Yeah, see, that's the thing. Let's see. I don't know what this guy's talking about. Blah, blah, blah. See, this is the other problem, is when you sort it by the newest comments, you don't get very much. Doublethink from 1984. Yeah, he's not a smart dude, my dude. This is really terrible. Like, he can't even get good comments. Like, superb. What value did you add to this discussion, pal? So, history is written by the decorative where every argument is worn. Yeah. I don't want to look at these comments. This is just... There's too much of this that doesn't really... I guess the problem is these commenters have so little to actually work with. Like, if you really think about this video, if you really think it through nice and deep, right? If you really think about what he said, he didn't really say anything. The few things that he did say are like 4chan is a thing that works in this very general way. And that was true. But he made a hypothetical that didn't matter. And then he spun off into this blah, 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 blah about, you know, people don't believe honestly. And there wasn't much actual substance to what he said. If you go down to his borrowed observations, a bunch of them are just tweets. They're just tweets. They're just people on Twitter being twits. Gamergate is a clash of can-style anonymous culture with the parts of social media where people live and work. So, it's the clash of... So what? That's not even describing trans culture. There's nothing here. Why am I still doing this stream? I'm going to cut this stream off, dude, because this is so stupid. It's so astonishingly dumb. I just don't know how I sat through this and came up with anything to say. In the end, he didn't actually say anything. And I think that's a good place to end this. So, enjoy the music, because it's over. Have a good night. Take care. Thanks for watching.